was a lot of controversy surrounding the last console Zelda game. People were split. Some moaned about Wind Waker's cartoonish look, while others embraced it. It was probably the first time Zelda fans were in different camps on the direction the series was taking. It's 3 years later, Nintendo has been hard at work trying to rekindle the spirit inside players. The result is The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess, a love letter to anyone who has ever enjoyed a Zelda game. Hyrule is in trouble again, and this time it's fallen under an oppressive darkness called the Twilight. As is par for the series, Link begins the game as a humble villager. Of course, watching the destitute kid from a grass hut go big time is what has made every Zelda story great, and it's no different here. Link's main nemesis this time around is Zant, a mysterious creature that hopes to bathe all of Hyrule in twilight. As a human, Link can only do so much with such unsavory characters, but he's quickly befriended by a small creature named Midna. She steps into the role of Navi from Ocarina of Time quite well, offering you hints when you need them, controlling your entrance to and from an alternate reality called the Twilight Realm, and even aiding you in reaching out-of-the-way places. The story unfolds in a variety of ways, but Twilight Princess does not include a second of voice acting. It can seem dated at first with all the high-production 10-hour games these days, but the series is still one of the best at developing characters with sharp writing, looping animation, and simple sound effects. There are plenty of gorgeous cinemas though, more than in any Zelda game before, including those patented touching moments that the series is known for. The story in Twilight Princess is thought-provoking and at the same time, fairly typical for the series. If you've played a single Zelda game, then you know it's ultimately going to boil down to 3 characters. How Twilight Princess gets there is smart and unexpected. Twilight Princess might be the largest action-adventure game ever created. You'll easily spend 50 to 60 hours plowing through the main quest, without taking time to really look around. The amount of content in the game absolutely boggles the mind. Nintendo could have split this game into 2 parts, and no one would have complained. Yet the robust travel and warping systems keep it from becoming a chore. The game progresses just like prior entries in the series. You start out with a simple sword and shield, and are rewarded for crushing massive bosses with new equipment and abilities. It's a great formula after all these years, and considering Nintendo is still the only developer pulling it off with aplomb, Twilight Princess demonstrates that 3 or 4 years between games is plenty to make the formula feel fresh all over again. Progression is always measured by your location and how many unlocked doors there are. It's all about getting to where you need to go by any means necessary. Luckily, there are plenty of means to the end. In addition to the classics like the hookshot, bow, and boomerang, there are several brand new abilities and weapons that will undoubtedly become fan favorites, and are perfectly integrated into the fabric of the game's design. The game is basically split into 2 parts, the normal realm and the Twilight Realm. In the normal realm, you play as human Link, and in the Twilight Realm, you play as a wolf. You traverse the same areas for both. The only difference is, in the Twilight Realm, the citizens of Hyrule are ghosts, and everything is shrouded in darkness. At the beginning of the game, there are specific times when you're transported between the 2, resulting in some moderate backtracking. Eventually, you gain the ability to change at your whim, and this is where the level design really begins to shine. There are minigames seemingly everywhere, and not just silly little point the Wii remote at a target type of minigames. There's a full-on snowboarding game with a legitimately sized course, and fishing that's so in-depth you can literally play it for hours. It also features some seemingly devilish puzzles that will humble you when you eventually figure them out. The Water Temple is especially interesting, as the entire dungeon is built around the concept of rerouting H2O around the massive layer. There's no denying that Twilight Princess is a GameCube game where the visuals are concerned. There's no discernible upgrade when you step up to the Wii version, but the art in this game is absolutely incredible. Occasionally, you'll stumble upon a few nasty textures here and there, but what Nintendo has pulled off with the limited resources is nothing short of astounding. It just goes to show that good art can keep a game from looking dated, no matter what the hardware is. At the same time, the expectations for the Wii are a little higher, and this is one area where it does disappoint a bit. The music also has some issues. All the classic scores are here, but the audio quality is generally flat. It's time that Nintendo says bye-bye to MIDI music. The Zelda game design dock is slowly becoming frayed at the edges, but it's hard to deny just how elegant and timeless it is. Twilight Princess is an absolute beast, and must have been a disaster to plan and execute, which is why it's so surprising that it remains one of the best designed games in the industry for the full 2 work weeks it takes to complete it. Obviously, the hot button topic is how the Wii's controller works with the game. No, your arms won't get tired playing it. It's interesting that Wii functionality came so late in the game's development when you consider that it's mixed almost perfectly with the rest of the gameplay. Pointing at the screen, definitely the most physically demanding control gesture, is only used for projectiles, so the times you spend with your arm extended come in short bursts. The rest of the game can be played with your hands resting on your lap, or anywhere else for that matter. You have to move the remote around to perform sword attacks, but the sensitivity is so acute that you barely have to wiggle it. Fishing is way more fun with the Wii remote than it is with a normal controller. The same goes for combat on horseback. They're simply better with the Wii's controls. The same thing can't be said for everything, though. Using the bow's first-person zoom with the Wii remote is actually more cumbersome than it would be with the typical controller. Overall, though, it definitely adds something to the series that it never had, and rarely becomes a nuisance. This is aided, in part, to a relative lack of difficulty. You will die many times, but not because you got your butt kicked in combat. The enemies are basically a cakewalk throughout. Most only require a lunging sword slash to be taken out. The same goes for your wolf abilities. One lunging bite usually finishes off most enemies. The bosses, despite being some of the coolest moments in video games this year, are also far too easy to defeat. The rest of Twilight Princess plays primarily the same as what you'd expect. All the old staples are here, like automatic jumping, lock-on combat, assigning abilities and weapons to hot buttons, collecting heart pieces, and that legendary Zelda chime when you solve a puzzle or a room. As the wolf, you can see things that Link can't see and smell things that Link can't smell, but you have no access to weaponry. In the first couple of hours, there are some issues that arise where what the game is asking you to do isn't clearly illustrated. And it's frustrating that Midna picks and chooses where she can help you reach high platforms, but nitpicking aside, the experience is practically peerless. To create a game this large, with so few flaws, is just staggering. Twilight Princess gives you just about everything you were hoping for in a new Zelda game, while supplying things you didn't even know you wanted in the first place. The tone is decidedly darker, the overly melodramatic moments are subdued, and it delivers that razor-sharp Zelda gameplay. When you compare the polish and content in this game to most other video games, it's just no contest. Not only is Twilight Princess the best Wii launch game, it's easily one of the greatest games ever created.